He's gonna bring the bring the money.
People work for the second time here. Welcome here again. Yeah, my name is Elias Asset. I was and I am the assistant of the artist who's made the whole that work in this area. Unfortunately, he died 8 months ago. You know, no with COVID, but something related to it. But anyway, welcome here. It's a pleasure to have you here again in Cuba, people from the US. And I'll try to give you an overview about this place, about the African heritage. What is this place? Callejon Hamel is the first cultural center of murals and permanent installations inspired by the African-derived religions that we are still practicing here in Cuba, or religions with African influences. They are not anymore Afro-Cuban religions. They are not anymore Afro-Cuban religions because they are not religions in Cuba, they are Cuban religions with African roots. And let's remember that from Africa were brought here to Cuba 1.3 million of Africans working in Cuba as a slave. They were not slaves, they were Africans. They were brought to the New World to work as animals of burdens, you know. And as a result, we are still practicing 4 religions with African roots. From 1523, 1873. You're allowed to take pictures, okay? Yeah. Don't worry about it. I am the box today. Okay. Don't worry about it. From 1523, 1873. And as a result, we are still practicing in Cuba 4 religions with African roots. For Europeans, they are not religions, but for us, they are religions with African roots. The most popular, and everybody know about it, the incorrectly named Santeria, which is described by scholars as a logical process of syncretism between Catholicism and African religion from Nigeria. I totally disagree with that definition, but anyway, we have another one. This one is never mentioned, you know, but it's important as well. Arara, that came from what is so-called today Benin in Africa. Arara. And we have Reglas de Palomonte. Reglas de Palomonte, a Cuban initiatic religion of Bantu Congo origins, derived from the practices of the Bakongo Africans from central part of Africa, even though Mozambique. And we have the last one, but it's important as well, very important, the secret society Abaqua. You know, it's a kind of association just for men. Life is cool but interesting. You know, we are still a very macho society. But anyway, the secret society Abaqua is like our Freemasons, you know, but with African religion. I was talking about the secret society of Abaqua, that is a kind of association for men where they have their own liturgy, and the music and the images of the secret society of Abaqua has influenced a lot our Cuban identity, our art, our music, our social frame, you know, and then our social fabric, you know, and then these traditions are very important in Cuba and Salvador. Paintings inspired by all of this culture. This is not a religious center. This is just an artistic cultural center or a social cultural project where we maintain alive these traditions. You remember that this tradition has been secluded, segregated for years, even before the revolution and even after the revolution. But nowadays, you know, people have realized that this tradition is very important because, as Fernando Ortiz said, one of the most important anthropologists in Cuba, without black, Cuba would not be Cuba. And then here we have paintings inspired by different gods and goddesses of different, or inspired by the African iconography that we have in Cuba. For instance, this painting here, inspired by Elegua. Elegua, patron of children, the energy of movement that coexisted between positive and negative poles of life. What is Elegua? Elegua is an orisha. An orisha Orisha and Egun are the center of the worship in Santeria, which is not the most accurate moniker for this religion. The most accurate moniker for this religion is Regla de Osha Ifa, because Santeria was a name given by the outsiders in a pejorative way to describe the worship of the Catholic saints by the Africans. But indeed, the Africans were forced to adopt symbols of Catholicism in order to be allowed to practice in public. That it was used. It was a trick used by the Africans to maintain alive their tradition, hiding their tradition, what they could retain from their past, behind of the Catholic veil. And then Santeria is not the most accurate moniker for this religion. It's Regla de Osha Ifa. And in the United States of America nowadays is known as Lukumi. Lukumi was the first name given by this religion, given by Spanish or slave traders in order to recognize people that were brought from that area in Africa that is so-called today Nigeria. And then in Santeria we do pray to the Orishas. Orishas are gods and goddesses, natural forces, personal spiritual beings that empower all life, anthropomorphized ancestors. And Orisha, one of the definitions of Orishas is Ori head sha God, God that lives in your head. In my opinion, that means that you have, that is one of the definitions, okay? In my opinion, that means that you have your own energy, that energy is in communion with one natural force, that is your God, your Orisha, that you have to be in balance in order to fulfill your destiny that has been given by the God Almighty, because we do believe in one supreme being who created Orishas, Ori means head, God, God that lives in your head. That means that you have your own energy, that energy is in communion with one natural force, that is your God, your Orisha, that you have to be in balance in order to fulfill your destiny that has been given by the God Almighty, because one important element in Santeria is destiny, that we choose that destiny before we were born, and after that we forget it, and in Santeria reminds you what is your destiny and what is your lot on earth. And then here we have a painting inspired by Elias. As you see, we have the profiles. The profiles is of the word Orisha, Ori. And then the Legua, patron of children, the energy of movement that coexisted with the positive and negative force of life. Legua is the trickster, the first and the last Orisha to receive homage in a ceremony of Santeria. And here, for instance, we have a painting inspired by Osain, god of nature, earth, plants. Remember, the Santeros and Santeras are very famous because they are diagnostic skills and herbal treatments. And what is being initiated in Santeria is being initiated in the mystery of your personal Orisha, that they are not intermediaries like Catholic saints, you know. Catholic saints are intermediaries between God and human beings. Orishas are not intermediaries. Orishas are extensions from the supreme being, so-called Olofin, extensions from the main source of energy given by Olodumare or Olofin. But that energy is so-called Ashe. That's why I say Ashe Pati. Ashe is the life force present in nature. Robert Farris Thompson, in his classical book Flash of the Spirits, described Ashe as the power that makes things happen. Sanaf, and then being initiated into Santeria is being initiated in the mystery of your own Orisha that carry out enough Ashe to fulfill your destiny. You know? And then here we have a painting inspired by this one here, Yemaya, goddess of the ocean, maternity, fertility, the mistress of the surface of the sea, the mother of the world and everything therein. Yemaya protects families, she unifies people. And Yemaya in Catholicism, of course, because we still have our memories colonized, you know, and in Catholicism people identify Yemaya with the vision of Regla, the Black Madonna. And here we have, of course, Saint Barbara. In Catholicism, very popular in Cuba, but in Santeria is identified with Shango, god of fire, thunder, music. Shango in Santeria is a party animal, you know, and Shango is really interesting because every 4th of December we have the celebration of Saint Barbara together with Chango. People go to the Catholic Church and then they go to houses of Santeria in order to celebrate Chango. You know, we have developed a double moral in almost everything, but related to religion is very important. Over there we have Saint Lazarus in Catholicism, but in Santeria is identified with Baba Luaye, Baba Father Ayewo, the father of the world. In Catholicism, Saint Lazarus. But this is not the real Saint Lazarus accepted by the Catholic hagiography. You know, this is just this image came from the popular religiosity, from the parable Lazarus and the rich man. You know, but nowadays this image is identified with the real Saint Lazarus accepted by Catholic hagiography, and at the same time is identified with Baba Luaye, God of Health. You will see a lot of experts and anthropologists telling the word syncretism. I don't use that word because I think that there is no syncretism between Catholicism and African religion from Nigeria, because syncretism is a philosophical doctrine where you have to conciliate two religions, and there is nothing to conciliate between African traditions and of Catholicism. Indeed, the Africans used Catholicism in order to maintain alive their traditions, and what they did was to hide their culture behind the Catholic veil, and they use elements of Catholicism. Indeed, nowadays there is a new movement of Orthodox Santeria where they eliminate the elements from the Western traditions. Indeed, that trend is so-called in the United States of America, Lucumí. But still people in Cuba use Catholic effigies in their shrines, in their liturgy. And there are elements of Spiritism, maybe you know about it, Spiritism that is mixed with Santeria, and they use a lot of elements of Catholicism. Because Santeria is described just as a mixture between Catholicism and African religion from Nigeria, so-called nowadays Yoruba. But it's not just like that. We have elements of other traditions like the Spiritism, that it has influence of the Spiritism from Europe, the French Spiritism, and influence of the United States of America spiritualism. Let's remember the Fox sisters in the United States of America, 1948, where they developed a system to communicate with the spirits, and that was introduced as well in Cuba. And nowadays, Santeria is a mixture between those elements and some other elements, because now Santeria is not a folklore. Santeria is a very dynamic religion. It has changed from generation to the next, and there are elements of Hinduism or even Japanese tradition that is mixed with this religion, because this religion is open to change. It was a weapon used by them in order to survive, because before the revolution, they were forced to be hidden behind Catholicism, but at the same time, they were forced to be hidden behind Fidel and Raúl and communist iconography, you know, because before, remember, after the 60s, you know, you were not able to be a religious guy and being part of the communist institutions. It was not until 1991, 1992 that was declared the free exercise of religion, and people were open to practice any kind of religions. And nowadays it's still accepted, but in front of these traditions, we still have prejudices. Any questions, my friends, so far? Do I make myself clear? Any question? Then, and here we have some other painters inspired by this culture. We have this one inspired by Osirian, god of nature, herb, plants. Or that one there inspired by the Secret Society Abaqua. The Secret Society Abaqua, there is an stigma of violence and criminality in front of these traditions, but indeed it is a tradition that has influenced a lot our music. Rumba has a lot of Abaqua rhythms, and a lot of painters were inspired by the very characteristic icons and figurines that are part of their liturgy. And if you go to the museum, Cuban Fine Museum, you will see a lot of paintings related to the Abaqua, related to the Ireme Abaqua, that is a very important character in our Cuban iconography. And if you want to know more about the Secret Society Abaqua, you can read the book by Ivor Miller from the United States of America, The Voice of the Leopard, about this tradition, and it's really interesting. Or about Santeria, David H. Brown's Santeria Enthroned. Very good book about this thing. And here we have Salvador, that has made a lot in order to maintain alive this culture. Nowadays, we are a community project. That is a very important thing of this area, that we are a community project where we maintain alive this tradition, but we have workshop for children. You know, we have a lot of social work. We have a lot of workshop for children, of dancing, music, theater. We have different kind of activities. For instance, today we'll have the day of Rumba from 12 to 3. You will have a small performance for you of Cuban, Santeria music, let's say that. I don't like that term, but in order to be understood, Santeria music with the dancing of the Richas. But anyway, every Sunday from 12 to 3 we have Rumba party. You know Rumba, the most rhythmically sophisticated, non-sacred music here in Cuba, the African soul of Cuban music, and the music that most synthesizes all of the African ingredients that were brought here to Cuba. And that is a concept given by definition, given by Nate Sublet in his book Cuba and Its Music. If you want to know about Cuban music, that's the best book that I ever read about this thing, Cuba and Its Music by Nate Sublet. And then every Sunday we have Rumba party, but we have as well Saturday for Children to promote traditional Cuban music. The last Friday of the month we have an activity every month about reggae music, and rap music, rap music. So far we have no reggaeton, but anyway, in one day I have to include it, because we have to include it because it's very important. Any question, my friend?
Is there influences from other Caribbean countries? And you mentioned the Nigerian influence, but is it broader than that, like West African? I know a lot of Cubans went to Angola also as soldiers. So have they brought other influences back in addition?
My friend, nowadays we have influence of everybody.
Yeah.
But anyway, between Africa and Cuba, let's do some. Let's say that we don't feel and never felt Africans. Cubans feel themselves as Cubans with African roots. We are not identified with Africa. And due to the colonization, Cubans are, unfortunately, it's very hard to say this, but after years of studying, Cuban black people are not proud of being, we don't have a collective proud of being black, because the different tools used by Europeans, by Western tradition, in order to colonize the mind of people. But anyway, we never felt identified like Africans. Even though if you ask people, even black people, to name some of the countries in Africa or places in Africa or the traditions in Africa, they won't tell you, because we are not identified with Africa. Nowadays, there is a new movement influenced by Afro-Americans in Cuba that they feel African. But in my opinion, that is a kind of hypocrisy. But anyway, I'm not telling bad things about that. I'm not criticizing. But anyway, Cuba, the African movement in Cuba, the black movement in Cuba is really interesting, and it's very particular. What happened in Cuba with the black people is different what happened in Haiti, what happened in the US, even what happened in Brazil, because we have really characteristics, our special characteristics that we have in Cuba. And our way of seeing this tradition is very, or this culture, or racism, even racism or whatever, is really specific and really different from other point of view. There are some influence. For instance, we had the influence at the beginning of the revolution of the Black Panthers, even Black Panthers member as Assata Shakur came to Cuba, whatever, and some anti-racist activists were inspired by them. But it never flourished into the mind of black people, because remember, even since 1902, it's supposed that we think about Cuba as a nation, not colors. We suppose that we have not in Cuba colors. We have a non-color ideology. And it was a trick used by white people in order to separate black, in order to maintain them in their position. She knows a lot about this. I know that she will tell you a lot. But after the revolution, it was used to silence Cuba to complain as black or white or Chinese. And then again, black people were silenced because they couldn't complain as black. I have to complain as Cubans. And then their rights were put under the table. Maybe I'm clear about it. I made myself clear with this statement. But anyway, and then I was talking about food, but I'm in two things at the same time because I'm organizing the. Mira a ver si están allá la verdad. Voy a meter en marcha. For instance, Black and Mulattoes associations. We had during the Republic, mulattoes and black people, they were organized in associations. And in some periods of time, they were strong and they influenced, the racial politics. But after the revolution, it was different because all of the Black and Mulattoes associations were silent, disappeared. Even though, anyway, the white associations like Spanish societies, they maintained the association even today, but not the blacks and mulattoes. And then it was a politics of not to eliminate them, but to maintain them as Cubans and to maintain them neutralized. And that has been the problems that we still have today. It's supposed that in a socialist society, where we have all the same rights, we still have racial prejudice. Even though the government has done a lot in order to eliminate racial prejudice. Even nowadays, they have created a kind of organization, of a kind of chapter in order to discuss and to create a kind of politics in order to eliminate racism. But it's not enough because people who are guiding them are not really into this thing. And then it's complicated, but anyway, my point is that this tradition is very important in Cuba, and we have to do a lot in order to respect the right of black people. It is a very difficult thing. I can explain to you in 5 minutes, but anyway, I would like to invite you to read the book by Alejandro de la Fuente, A Nation for All. Alejandro de la Fuente, A Nation for All, is one of the best books about racism in Cuba before the revolution and after the revolution. And another one, he is Cuban, but he's living in the United States of America right now. He's a Harvard professor, but he has a very interesting point of view. But if you want to know the Cuban point of view from this shore of the sea, we have Roberto Zurbano, another guy who writes about racism in Cuba, or some other books like the Anti-Racism in Cuba by, I can't remember the author, but anyway, any question, my friend? Mind colonized, this religion is symbol of witchcraft, something negative, and it remains from the past. Some people are practitioners of this religion and they don't tell anyone. They practice just for them. Because this religion, it is not a faith like Christianism or any other religion. We have a faith, but indeed, we use this religion to solve problems. To try to live a better life now, not when you die. Forget about faith, forget about principles, forget about everything. You solve problems. What happened with you? Your husband is betraying you, then you go there and do a magic work in order to get back your husband. You have a problem with job, you do something in order to receive a new job and whatever. Most of the people who are initiated into this religion, besides the faith, besides the principle, because I love this religion, is because they had a problem. Now you don't have to be black, or you don't have to be you don't have to be born in a family of this religion. You need always to you need, if you want to be part of this religion, you could do it, because this religion is inclusive religion. Even you could be Jewish, because I have a friend who is Jewish, and he was initiated in Santeria just a year. He's from the U.S., Jewish from the U.S., And he, in the United States of America, he's Jewish, but in Cuba, he's Santero. And we don't criticize it. And I have a Cuban friend who is Santero, Palero. He practices Hinduism. He belongs to the Communist Party, and he's gay. Without any conflict, any problem. And that's Cuba. That's Cuba, because we have the mentality of mixing. Everything is mixed unless you solve problems. You mix whatever it is necessary to solve problems, to live better, Any other question? That's why we have survived, even today, when the situation is not so pleasant.
The name of the association studying racism was that Ponte?
Well, that is the official
something
one.
different? Oh.
That's the official one. Comisión Aponte. That was part of the first project by UNIAT was Color Cubano. Then after Color Cubano, with Gisela Arandia, after Color Cubano, then they created Comisión Aponte, but that is the official one. Now there is another association, official association, that they are in charge of managing this problem, so-called Cátedra Mandela. Cátedra Mandela by Rosa Campoalegre. She's the director of La Cátedra Mandela. She's in charge of unifying all of the anti-racist groups. Cátedra Mandela, Comisión Aponte, but there are some others as chapters or associations of anti-racist activists that they are not part of it. They are not contra-revolutionary, but they have different point of view, and they have some other anti-racist movement that they are against the revolution. That is a reality. We can't hide the reality, And then there are some other movements, anti-racist movements in Cuba, and you have to, because all of them, the problem is that Cuban black people never were unified in Cuba. They never were unified. Remember the separation of the split between mulattoes and black. Not now, from the colony, because mulattoes always had better possibilities than black people. And mulattoes, even though today mulattoes don't recognize themselves as black.
Oh, sure.
Sometimes when I say to my friend, negro, I say, no, I am not negro, yo soy mulatto.
Yeah.
And they are proud of saying they are mulatto, but that has a very deep social charge into that expression. I am not black, I am mulatto. And you see how deep has been working the colonization and the Western tradition into our mind. And I see it every day in here. I have been working for 25, 22, 23 years in this area, and I have seen a lot of manifestations of racism. And that manifestation of racism that I hate is when a black or a white say, no, the most racist are black people. That is a very racist saying, because black people are racist because the white people was in charge of doing so. Because they always separated black people. And they created among them a way to separate them, to defeat them. And black people are racist among them because there is a social fabric in charge of doing so.
That's true.
And that is, I hate that expression. No, the most racist are black people. No,
That's true.
that's not racist. They are not racist because they want to do it. No, they are not racist. They are the product of the social conflicts that we carry out from the colonization times. This is just, my friend, this is just my opinion, okay? My opinion. That after reading and after working in this area for 22 years amongst people who practice this religion, amongst black and among white people.
What was the name of the artist that founded this?
Salvador Gonzalez
Salvador
Escalona.
Gonzalez.
Salvador, I think you met him last time.
Yes,
You came here.
2017.
Yeah, you met him last time. Any other question, my friends?
Real quick.
I've been lying to you. It's very complicated because they represent a specific part of our population, you know, and at the same time, it was used by different groups in order to let me think how to explain that, because they were artists even though they were black, and there is a part of Cuban people that they feel themselves as not attention by the government, you know, and it's because some of the weakness that we have in our government, in our politics, you know, we have some weakness in our politics, and the government have been in charge to show off, to clarify that, because that's why they have created Comisión Aponte and some other institution in order to clarify that. But it was the product of the different unrest that we still have in Cuba, because we still have a lot of problems due to different situations, like the embargo, or like people who are not who are in charge of the bureaucracy or something like that. But it was that manifestation was the feeling of a certain part of the society that they are not happy, or I forgot the word, happy with the government politics. Just that. Because nowadays we have a lot of problems that will have to be solved, or the government is trying to solve it step by step. Because the Cuban society is very complicated. And we have something that is very difficult for us, that we have the embargo, that even though a lot of people think that the embargo is one of the justifications that we that, but the embargo is one of the big problems that we have in Cuba is embargo. We have some other problems that could be solved among us, of course, but the embargo is a big one.
Affects everybody.
Everybody, yeah. Because some people in the street, I have a lot of my friends that say, no, the government is the one in charge of all of the problems here that we have, and I say, not just the government. The government has a responsibility, of course, but without the embargo, will be a little bit better. We are going to have a performance of Santeria, and Santeria is a dance region. We use musical dancing, amongst other reasons, for the state of possessions. And we are not possessed by demoniac spirits. We are possessed by gods and goddesses, by divine essence from the Supreme Being, by divine energies from the Supreme Being, Olofi, Olodumare. We have the bata drums, double-headed drums, hourglass shape, that are used to invoke the energy of the orishas to possess the barrio. Incas that we worship in Santeria. First of all, we have Elegua, patron of children, the energy of movement that consistent with the positive and negative flows of life. Elegua is the trickster, the mischievous deity. And when he dances, he uses the wooden club in order to open the ropes. And then in yellow color, we have Oshun, goddess of love, river, sensuality, the archetype of joy, pleasure, happiness, prosperity. Oshun represents love, represents the honey, and when she dances, she seduces men. Then in blue color we have Yemaya, goddess of the ocean, maternity, fertility, the mistress of the surface of the sea, and when she dances, she imitates the waves of the sea. Then I hope that I made myself clear. You will enjoy this presentation. After that, you walk around the street, you take pictures. At the end, if you want to tip the musicians, you can do it. And then thank you very much. Enjoy my country, but don't try to understand it. Just enjoy it.